a link. Tampa, which is, I would say that's where I'm from. They're having a concert. It's Pitbull, Enrique Iglesias, and Ricky Martin. So she's like, that would be awesome, wouldn't it? I'm like, you know what? It actually would be awesome. So we got the three Latino music superstars all in one place. Hey, thanks for coming on. Coach Esteban here. We got Esteban On Demand. I'm your anti-aging fitness and nutrition coach. I'm the 49-year-old dude that's like, yo, bro, let's go. How do we do longevity and anti-aging? Showing it up that way. So today I have a special guest for you, which super blessed, freaking awesome. This week we're talking about supplementation. So I coach and I teach on the K7 method, which is 7 principles that I've identified over the 30 plus years that I've been in this fitness and nutrition industry. So when you live within these 7 principles, you're going to maximize, you're going to be at an optimized lifestyle. Supplementation, ideal supplementation is one of them. I've got Dr. Manu with us today, which is freaking awesome. He comes with a massive background. Instagram, I'm going to let you hear a little bit of this, and then you're going to have to go to our Facebook page, E-Lutz Fitness on Facebook. As you're watching, and in the comments in the Zoom room, Instagram, Facebook, put in where you're watching from. Let us know where you're watching from. And Dr. Manu, I'm gonna bring you in. Welcome, Dr. Manu. So where are you joining us from?
Well, thank you so much, Esteban. It's an honor to be here to serve you, your community, and supporting you on this mission you have. I am zooming in from Toronto, Ontario. I am up north in Canada.
Yeah, so he's that close to Santa Claus. That Toronto people, put a big T in the comments. We do have a couple of people from Toronto, so it's always nice and fun. So give us the version of how you got to where you are now, because I find it fascinating. Like when I heard your personal story, your professional trip, I'm like, this dude's awesome. So Instagram, I want you to hold on, and then I love you, and I'm going to be cutting you off. So you're going to hear from an awesome individual, and you're like, bro, I want to learn more, and I know you do. So how did you get started with all this?
So my background, I'm South Asian. So in South Asian families, for those of you who may know and don't know, your parents dictate, how successful you're going to be based on, are you going to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, or failure? So that was my path. So my parents always wanted me to be a doctor. And, truthfully, when I was a kid, I knew I wanted to help a lot of people in my life. And I thought, okay, maybe being a doctor is the way to go. So that led me to going to medical school in the Caribbean. So I did my medical school there. I did all of my clinical internships and clerkships in the US in various cities. And I wrote all the board exams, checked off all the boxes, graduated, became a doctor officially in 2019, a doctor of medicine. And I also wrote all the board exams in Canada to be qualified and distinguished as a doctor in both Canada and USA. However, what people may not tell you and what the general public may not know is in medicine, even if you check off all the boxes for things that you are supposed to do, you may still not end up with a job. And for those of you who watch sports, in sports, they go through a draft, like the NBA draft, the NFL draft. And that's what qualifies those athletes to actually get their career started playing professional sports. So for doctors, it's the same thing. Even though you graduate from medical school, you check off all the boxes, you also go through a draft, which is called residency. And for those of you who don't know, residency for a lot of people can seem like gambling, where you're going to the casino, you're betting all your money on red, when you probably should have put it on black, and you walk away with nothing. So I applied to residency, paid tens of thousands of dollars on residency applications for 4 years in the US. I wanted to do family medicine, then specialize in integrative and functional medicine, which Esteban has probably already taught all of you, is the way where individuals learn how they can find the root cause of what's going on and really reverse their illness and become to a better station of health. So I tried applying to residency a couple times in the US and Canada. It did not work out for me, unfortunately. And that's where I decided, I want to take my life into my own hands. And I opened up my own business where I support my clients, my audience as a mind body transformation health coach. And I really support individuals getting their health right, especially with metabolic disorders, which are things like diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol. I support individuals going through anxiety, stress, depression, and even educate and empower individuals how most of these people can even reverse things like autoimmune diseases and 70% of all cancers, because 70 to 75% of all cancers are based on lifestyle modifications, people. They are based on things like diet, nutrition, exercise, your relationships. And it's not a sentence to death. It's not a sentence to have these things for the rest of your life, because you as the individual have the power to take your health into your own hands and naturally reverse a lot of these things. And
I love
that's
how you say
I got
that.
here.
It's like in my generation growing up,
Mhm.
I was I was given the impression that like cancer, for instance, diabetes, Alzheimer's, dementia, so all of the common diseases that I believe I read from Harvard School of Medicine that 70 to 80% of them, are tied in with inflammation and as you're saying, lifestyle practices. I was taught to believe that we had no choice. Like it was a genetic stamp. You're either going to get it or you're not going to get it. So I find it empowering when I hear somebody with your background. You've got the traditional medical background, and you've got that holistic approach and viewpoint, and it's like 75 to 80% of it, we're 100% in control, whether we're activating that or we're saying back the F up. It's not happening. So with that said, and in your practice, I'm going to tie it into supplementation because I could go 20,000 different ways with you, and I'd love to have you on multiple times if that's okay with you to get your viewpoint, experience, and expertise on different aspects of what we travel through the K7 method. This week, it's about supplementation.
Mhm.
Based on your professional recommendations, what do you see is a pattern when it comes to what a person would be deficient in?
Mhm.
And like I see this being a staple to have in your pantry to live above that subpar line to the optimal line.
Mhm. Yeah, so that's a great question, Esteban. So, what I have commonly seen people being deficient in, just on anecdotal data. So this is people telling me, I believe I'm deficient in this because of XYZ, these symptoms I'm facing or this issue I'm facing. A lot of people living in the northern hemisphere of the world, so individuals like myself that live in Canada, if you're in the US, the northern states, where winter is probably 6 months of the year, you're not getting much sun, it's very cloudy most of the time. These individuals will be deficient in vitamin D most of the time. And a very interesting fact, people who suffered in the pandemic, people who got COVID, people who passed away, unfortunately, a lot of those individuals were actually deficient in vitamin D. Vitamin D, for a lot of people that don't know, people relate vitamin D with bone strength and the fragility of your bones, which is true. The more vitamin D you have, the better strength of bones you will have. But vitamin D also contributes to a strengthened immune system, which helps fight off viral infections, bacterial infections, and in some cases, even fungal infections. So for these individuals, I would say, if you live in the northern part of the world, it's extremely beneficial to you to go for blood work, check out your vitamin D levels. Is it on the lower end of normal? Is it actually low, or is it in the normal range of what you want? For those people, I would say the best thing about supplementation is the first thing you want to do is look at your diet and your nutrition. That's the first thing you want to look at. And if you're deficient in vitamin D, you might want to consume more foods that contain calcium, that contain vitamin D, or just go outside and get natural sunlight. And then if you are doing all those things and you are still deficient, then you may want to consider opting in to get vitamin D supplementation. And for supplements, there isn't really any brand I can recommend, but you want to pick a brand that you trust, that is reputable, and that you personally may have experienced the benefit from, or you have seen in your life friends or family members have a great experience taking those supplements. So for most people, vitamin D, that is a big one. Should I also go into other minerals or?
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm gonna pause it here and then 100% yes. It's what I find fascinating, again, per my experience on our traditional medical training and coaching. It would be the response is typically, here's the pharmaceuticals. It's that industry is trained on pharmaceuticals, not necessarily the nutrition or the holistic response.
Mhm.
Uh, and then depending on the time that we've got, I'd love to hear
Yeah.
your actually I'm gonna ask right now the pros and cons of pharmaceutical only suggestion.
Mhm.
And so it's a double-edged sword when I speak this. I'm going to speak out of both sides of my mouth. So I
Mhm.
am against pharma only, so that's my personal stance,
Yeah.
and I'm not against pharmaceuticals because I have experienced there's a time and a place where a pharmaceutical is the exact band-aid, slingshot, jumpstart that an individual needs in conjunction to the other
Mhm.
approaches, the hydration, the sleep, the supplementation, obviously the food foundation. So that's my personal and professional stance. I'd love to hear your experience on being trained in the Western medicine aspect, and now you're bringing in that holistic. So,
Mhm.
what can we experience as clients, as patients, on again my viewpoint? I'm not a medical doctor, but my viewpoint on big pharma only versus the hybrid.
Yeah. So definitely, I'm not against pharmaceuticals in any way. I think there's definitely a time and place for pharmaceutical intervention. So definitely, let's say, for example, you are, God forbid, anyone's in this situation. If you get into an accident, you get a gunshot wound or something like that, where you need surgery. A lot of the times, the surgeon and the anesthesiologist, whoever's involved in that care and in that team of care, they're going to be using pharmaceuticals on your body. So things like maybe sedatives, maybe things like pain meds, maybe even antibiotics. And that's the time and place it's needed. Or if you have a severe pneumonia or something like that, you may need to be hospitalized and get treated. That's when antibiotics will be needed. The thing is, for most doctors, for most healthcare professionals, like I'm a doctor myself, what we learned in medical school is always to just go for drugs. Always. Anytime a patient comes in with any symptom or disease, just go for the drug. If you were to say anything else besides the drug, chances are you're going to be reprimanded by your teachers, your professors, and you're going to fail your exams. That's how it's structured. So, for most doctors and most healthcare professionals, the only knowledge they have is the knowledge they got in their medical textbooks, the knowledge they got by doing question banks, and they're unable to go beyond that because that's their training. And it makes sense because if you are doing something for your whole life and that becomes your truth, then if someone comes along and tells you your truth needs modification, your truth may not actually be truth, you're going to go through an existential crisis in your own mind and you're going to be questioning everything. And
Yep.
at the root cause of that is fear and insecurity, where now you're going to see yourself not knowing who you are, what you believe in, and you're not going to know what to do. So for most doctors and healthcare professionals, that's all they know. The ones that are amazing, the ones that are amazing doctors, amazing healthcare professionals, they actually help people reverse illnesses. These are the doctors and individuals who know what they learned is not enough. They realize that they need to do more digging and more research to actually find what's going to benefit their patients, their clients, their audience, whoever. So, supplementation and pharmaceuticals. The first thing for any individual is like what we said earlier. Whenever you realize you have a deficiency or in something, or you believe you may be deficient in something, or you get the blood work that tells you, the first thing you want to do is make sure your diet and nutrition, you're eating whole, unprocessed foods, which are rich in those nutrients, those minerals, those vitamins you need. And if that's not enough, then you can go into supplementation. Now, if you're a person who is sick, you, for whatever sickness it is, you check your diet, nutrition, you check your supplementation. And if that's not enough, then maybe you'll need to go to pharmaceuticals. So for these individuals, I'm prefacing individuals who may have, I don't like using this term, mental health disorders, but individuals going through anxiety, depression, right? Those individuals, I want to know, the first thing I want to know, what are you eating? How are you eating? What are the types of food you're eating? Are you getting sunlight? Are you getting exercise? Do you have good social relationships? If all those things are checked off and it's not enough, then we're going to go into supplementation. If the supplementation is not enough, then I might want to go into prescribing. Well, I don't prescribe anything, right? I don't practice as a physician. I'm not licensed to prescribe. But then I would want to know, okay, does this person need to go to a board certified physician or a licensed practitioner who can prescribe them an antidepressant, right? The thing is, in most modern medicine, and most individuals that go to your doctor, the first thing is the doctor is they're going to hear your complaints, they're going to hear what's going on, and then they're going to go back to their training. Remember, I told you the training that we received was the first line of defense of anything is just prescribe a drug. So they're going to prescribe you the antidepressant without actually realizing, okay, does this person have a good family support system? Do they have good friendships? Are they getting out to walk? Are they getting sunlight? Are they practicing things like grounding, mindfulness, meditation? Did they supplement with something that can support their serotonin levels? Or if it's not a serotonin deficiency, are they getting the right supplementation that will help elevate their mood and alleviate the symptoms of stress or whatever else they're facing? So it really goes to show that, it's always do things in a stepwise manner. The first step, I'm sure Esteban has already taught all of you, is diet, nutrition, exercise. The second step could be your supplementation. The third step now would be pharmaceuticals. And the fourth step, if pharmaceuticals don't work, that's when your doctor will want to prescribe you a surgery, an operation, or something like that. And in those cases, any type of surgery or procedure you have, I saw someone post anticoagulants. Yes, that's when you are going to be getting all these drugs because they are needed to make sure the surgery goes smooth and there are no complications from that. Because surgery itself, no matter what type of surgery you have, you're putting your body through a very stressful state that is not normal. So that's why the stronger or the more severe disease you have, the stronger form of treatment you will need. And that makes sense because most individuals, if you are bleeding out, right, a herb and supplementation is not going to support you. A tourniquet will support you. A surgeon going into your body and locating the source of bleeding will support you. Using things like anticoagulants, vasopressors, fluids will support you, right? But these are the things that will support you when nothing else works. It shouldn't be the first line of defense, and we should always look at things in that stepwise manner.
I like that. So that's a unique way that I've heard it. I'm going to translate it into Esteban terminology.
Yeah.
It's the identifying where you are, identifying where you want to go, and what's the ideal solution for that current chapter that you're in. And that ideal solution could be, we need trauma response right now. We need pharmaceutical response right now. Or it could be we need whole food and supplementation intervention. We need ideal hydration intervention. So I like that. I'll do that on step number 1. We do vision and goal setting with the K7 method. It's like, where are you? What's your vision? What are the goals to get you there? So, and how you're mentioning, what's the immediate need to get you from point A to point B? And is that pharmaceutical intervention? Is that trauma procedure intervention? I love that. So as we close up, if you could also mention a few other supplements that you've seen that are really supportive with your clientele. You've got Canada and you've got the United States. Vitamin D3 is one of them. And I live on that northern line where we could have cloud coverage for 7 months. Earlier, I did go outside and I stood out in the sun because I'm like, I don't know when the next day that I'm going to have sunlight is.
Yeah, definitely. So another one that I see common in men. So for couples, like married couples that want to conceive, right? And let's say, for example, this married couple, they're having a hard time conceiving. in medicine, what we are going to look at first, right, is the man. Is his semen good? Is it in a good quality for the semen to actually fertilize the egg and then create the embryo, right? So zinc deficiency is very, very common. It's very common in a lot of men. So one thing I would get men to supplement with is zinc. And the reason is you want healthy sperm so you are fertile, so you can impregnate your wife and have children. So zinc is commonly found in foods like there's some meats. I think oysters are good. I think legumes would also be good, like lentils, chickpeas, things like that. And so that's the first thing we're going to look at. We're going to look at what you're eating. And let's say if you know for some reason, this is what I tell people, and this is advice I take for myself. If I know I have a feeling I am deficient in something and I know I'm not getting it in my diet, I will opt in to just supplement right away with a capsule or a vitamin. So if you know you're not going to be getting the right amount of zinc in your diet, then I would say go find a supplementation, go on Amazon, go to your nearest grocery store or your pharmacy, and you can get zinc tablets, which are going to be great for you. Another thing I would like to tell people, there are so many people, and I've noticed this in the past few years, but especially after COVID, a lot of people are having digestive issues. They're having issues with either bloating, constipation, maybe flatulence, like they're just giving off too much gas. They're not having regular bowel habits. The first thing I want to tell people is make sure you're eating a good amount of fiber in your diet. A lot of individuals, like especially people I see that are on things like a carnivore diet, they're on like very particular diets. I want to know how much fiber they're getting. You get fiber from, well, fiber's not from water, but one of the things that help contribute to digestive issues is getting adequate hydration, like Esteban said. You want to make sure you're adequately hydrated. Things that will give you a good amount of fiber are eating fruits, eating vegetables, and good grains for you. I myself, I don't eat processed oats, but I love eating steel cut oats because they're unprocessed and they're a very good source of fiber and they keep you full throughout the day. So look at your fiber intake. For individuals who may have, they may have had a stomach bug. Maybe you had an episode where you got a viral gastroenteritis, which is a fancy word for saying viral infection of your stomach, and you felt all these symptoms. You may want to opt in to supplementing with a probiotic and prebiotic. Now, there are many foods, like I said, you want to look at your foods, right? There are many foods that have the good amount of probiotics, prebiotics, and postbiotics. And if you know you are not getting these types of food in your diet, maybe it's too expensive where you live, or these food sources are unavailable to you based on the grocery stores that are near you, then you will want to supplement with a probiotic capsule. And there are a ton of good brands. You can go on Amazon, you can go to your nearest grocery store or your pharmacy. They will have probiotics, and that is essential. And another thing I want to say is with probiotics, right? There's a lot of research being done that you need to have a good gut microbiome and a good gut microbacteria in general to have an overall state of healthy living. Now, for a lot of people, this is going to be different. Some people, the most common complaint I've heard of individuals taking probiotics for an extended period of time is getting brain fog. And for those of you who may not know what brain fog is, that's literally a feeling where you just feel tired and fatigued in your head, and it's really unexplainable. And for some individuals, they can actually get that from probiotics if they're eating it for an extended period of time. So for those people, if you experience brain fog from taking probiotics, the right thing to do is stop taking those probiotics for a couple weeks. The brain fog will subside. And then when you need to, you can reintroduce the probiotics into your life. You can take them and then just be cautious of the brain fog you might get. And if you don't want to face that, then I would say look for foods with good sources of probiotics and prebiotics. These include things like a lot of people like drinking kombucha. Kombucha is great. There's also kefir yogurt. There's also kimchi, sauerkraut. There is miso, and there's a few others that I'm just not remembering at the top of my head. But you definitely want to look into that. And the last thing I want to recommend, which is something I personally take, fish oil pills, omega-3 fish oil pills. Now, if you're a person, like I said, you are looking at your diet and you're getting all the right nutrients from your diet, then for fish oil, instead of taking those pills, if you're a person that eats salmon or those types of fatty fish, then you're golden. You're golden, right? And if you're also eating things like nuts, like walnuts, pecans, almonds, these also have the good type of fatty acids that you want. Fatty acids from omega-3 pills or salmon or those nuts that I described are great for brain health. They help support your brain because your brain needs a lot of water. It's actually cushioned by CSF, which is cerebrospinal fluid. And that's properly nourished by us hydrating ourselves. And also, your brain requires fat to process and regulate the rest of your body. But also, this fat is good because it converts itself to testosterone in men and estrogen in women. We need these cholesterols because these cholesterol markers are they're precursors to form the hormones that we need. So this would be good cortisol in our body. I know a lot of people associate cortisol with stress. It is the stress hormone, but we still need cortisol to survive. Too much cortisol becomes a problem, but the right amount of cortisol is what we actually need to survive and thrive. So these cholesterol markers get converted to cortisol, they get converted to testosterone and estrogen, which is all essential. And I think people should be incorporating those things into their diet. And if you're not getting them in your diet, then definitely look into supplementation.
Love that. And I like how you brought up cholesterol because, again, growing up, cholesterol was an evil word. And
Yeah.
the thought of higher cholesterol has been, as negative, has been debunked multiple times over the last decade and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where, as you mentioned, getting your blood work, getting lab work on a regular basis, and seeing a skilled professional to be able to decipher what does this lab work really mean, is essential. And the unfortunate part is there's a lot of confusion out there, even for somebody like me that's a professional in this industry for over 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Is we could be guided in one direction, and although there's clinical studies that prove against it, we only know what we know. And Dr. Manu, you had mentioned it earlier. It's if I'm getting new data that goes against what I've only known, it's a challenge against my identity. So I want to refuse that. It's a survival mechanism to speak against this new knowledge because it's like I haven't really known anything for a while.
Yeah.
Outside of, it's one of the things I like about the holistic practice, the integrative practice, where my experience as professionals like you walk into it saying, I don't know it all and I'm about to learn something new today. So the identity is what's going to get debunked, what am I going to learn, what's going to get debunked, what am I going to learn, versus it's only the way that I learned when I was really, really young, not
Mm-hmm.
the years or decades of expertise and experience I get. I appreciate having you on. Definitely want to bring you back on. The VIP room, mastermind, you guys hang tight. Any questions you've got for Dr. Manu, rock on. Facebook, love having you on. Put in the comments a takeaway that you've got. So I'm curious to find out, what did Dr. Manu mention that's a good takeaway for you, and what else do you want to learn? Put it in the comments, and we'll make sure to bring him back on, so we can get some of that. As we're wrapping up here, what's a great way that people can find you on either Instagram or Facebook or YouTube?
Yeah, a great way to find me is LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a great way. I haven't been very active on Instagram, I'll be honest, but LinkedIn's great. Facebook is great, and also my personal email. If people want to take that, that is totally fine with me.
If you're cool with it, go ahead and mention it.
Yeah. So my LinkedIn, well, can I pop it into the chat right now, or is that okay?
Pop it into the chat. So,
Awesome.
and for those that are in the Zoom room, the VIP mastermind, they're going to be able to see the link, and then I'll have you mention it for those that are watching the replay on Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah. So the best place to reach me is on my LinkedIn and also my personal email, which I'll be putting here. Those two are literal. Yeah, I always check my email and my LinkedIn. So those are the best places to reach me at. Appreciate it, Esteban.
Awesome. Cool. Facebook, love you. We'll see you next time.